Alright, here we are halfway through the year, and now it's time to talk about my personal top 10 favorite games of 2026, as we're about to cross the halfway point. Just some quick housekeeping, all of the footage on screen has been captured on a PS5 Pro and is spoiler free. Also, this is my own personal top 10 list. I'm not saying this is the definitive list of the best games of the year so far. There have been literally thousands of games already, and I'm not able to play everything to the extent I want to. If there's a game that's on your list that's not on mine, it doesn't mean that I think it's a bad video game, it just may not have resonated with me, or I just maybe haven't played it yet. Definitely let me know what your top 10, top 5, or even top 3 list is down in the comments below. If there's something on your list that's not on mine, definitely tell me about it. I may check it out and it may end up making it into a future video. Alright, with all that in mind, let's get into it. At number 10, we've got Mixtape. I was told after my Mixtape video came out that people got the impression that I really didn't like Mixtape. That's not quite the impression I meant to give. I liked Mixtape, but was disappointed by its story. I think the developers are really talented and enjoy the music a lot, even if I still can't play it on YouTube. I think the atmosphere is pretty cool, some of the mini-games are really fun, I just don't necessarily think it's a 10 out of 10. But in my opinion, it's also not like a 4 or 5 out of 10. It's, somewhere in between, depending on who you are. Check out my full review of Mixtape in the description down below, but fair warning, the audio is really bad because I was recording through some rough headphones, so just know that going in if you decide to watch it. At number 9 is Crimson Desert. Now before you get your pitchforks out for Crimson Desert being this low, I think Crimson Desert and the rest of the games on this list are good games. I just didn't have the chance to get as far into Crimson Desert as I would have liked. I played for over 50 hours and then ended up moving on to other games, but generally I really like Crimson Desert. The open world is maybe the most beautiful one we've ever seen in gaming. The diversity of activities is genuinely staggering, and those guys have been updating and improving like crazy. I haven't really gotten back into the game in a couple months, and I'm sure when I do go back, they will have made so many improvements that it may climb several spots on my list. My only real gripes with the game are that I don't think the story is very good. And again, before you get mad at me for criticizing the game, the developers of the game agree with me. The screenshots on screen right now are from an article by Vice and then the Crimson Desert website itself saying that they're reworking the story to make it more coherent. So, again, it's coming from them too. The only other real complaint is that some of the mechanics aren't super well explained, or at least weren't at the time. But yeah, some really good gameplay, some cool open world activities, and hundreds of hours to keep you busy. As far as time for money, I don't really know that it gets better than Crimson Desert so far this year. At number 8, we have Super Meat Boy 3D. I don't really have much of a history with Super Meat Boy. I had some friends who were obsessed with it in high school, but it never really hooked me. Super Meat Boy 3D, however, looked way too good to miss. And I was kind of both right and wrong. I've never played such a great game that I absolutely hated playing so much. The platforming can feel a little imprecise in this new 3D art style, especially the wall running and jumping between walls. However, I do really love the art style, and the music in this game is incredible. It was so gratifying to beat a hard level I'd spent 70 times dying to, or a boss fight that I thought would permanently stop my progress. Or even the rare instance or two that I beat a level on my very first try. Look, all I can say is if you're going to play this game, get ready to get angry. At number 7, we have LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. If you want to get my full thoughts on LEGO Batman and its completion process, well, you're in luck because I've already done 2 full videos about it, also linked in the description down below. With that in mind, I'll try to be quick. LEGO Batman is a fun, family-friendly time that has pretty good but easy Arkham-style combat, stealth, and exploration. The playable characters are cool and feel different and have a bunch of awesome skins, especially if you're a really big Batman fan. The story is interesting in its concept but flawed in execution. The sales pitch of a celebration of Batman should have been advertised as a celebration of Batman movies. Still, if you love Batman or the Arkham games, I'd say go for it. At least we have a Batman game that runs at 60 FPS on consoles now, right? At number 6, we have Mouse PI for Hire. I think it's pretty safe to say that Mouse PI for Hire is the most unique game I've played this year. I guess maybe except for Romeo's a Dead Man, but Mouse PI follows Jack Pepper, expertly voiced by the legendary Troy Baker. Pepper's a Frank Drebin, Naked Gun-style detective who investigates police corruption, party politics, and maybe saves an endangered population of mice. Now look, I won't get into ludonarrative dissonance or anything.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Digs at IGN aside, there's a lot of shooting, big band music, and a lot of cheese puns. And all of it, except for some of the puns, are very good. The shooting is very fun and snappy enough, even with this 2D art style. I know some reviewers felt that the bullets didn't really have enough impact, but that was not my experience. I found the shooting still very, very satisfying. What elevates the game from good to great are the well-hidden secrets, expansive optional missions, surprisingly in-depth story, and the gorgeous art style. If you were on the fence about this one because of a mediocre review or two, I'd encourage you to give this one a second look. You might be in for one of the best boomer shooters of all time. Before we get into number 5, if you're enjoying this video, please drop a like and consider subscribing. I put out brand new videos like this every single week. Coming in at the halfway point at number 5 is Vampire Crawlers, the turbo wildcard from Vampire Survivors. Vampire Crawlers is a roguelike deck-building dungeon crawler developed by Poncle and Nosebleed Interactive and published by Poncle. Yes, I know that was a mouthful. I'll explain. Basically what you're doing in this game is killing enemies with a deck of cards that slowly build as you collect XP and defeat enemies within a series of levels found within each dungeon. Each card has a certain amount of mana value you need to consume to play it. Your goal is to build a combo by building on each mana requirement per card. So you play a card that costs no mana, then costs 1, 2, and so forth. Each increase of the combo count raises the power or potency of the next card played. Like Vampire Survivors, you have different characters which all start with their own weapons, or decks in this case, and their own abilities. Also like Vampire Survivors, you can utilize upgrades to certain abilities to give yourself an extra advantage when taking on dungeons and boss fights. There's a fair amount of variety to the dungeons and levels in Vampire Crawlers, even if they're pretty much just reused art from Vampire Survivors. I'm not typically the kind of person these games appeal to, except for Inscription, but I really loved my time with Vampire Crawlers. It took me roughly 37 hours to platinum the game, and I could definitely see myself returning once additional content is added. Basically, if you liked Vampire Survivors and or games like Inscription or Slay the Spire, I'd recommend checking this one out. At number 4, we have Pragmata. Pragmata, yes, that is how you say it, is the newest IP from legendary developer and publisher Capcom. Pragmata had a bit of a storied development history, scheduling, and missing several planned release dates over the years. No one was really sure when or if this game would see the light of day. Thankfully, it did, and it's pretty fantastic. Pragmata kind of sits in a similar place as Stellar Blade for me. I didn't really care about the story of either, but the gameplay and levels were strong enough to elevate the game and make it punch above its weight. In Pragmata, you play as Hugh, an astronaut who gets stranded on a space station on the moon with a little robot girl he names Diana. And look, this isn't The Last of Us or God of War. The relationship between Hugh and Diana is pretty much immediately friendly. Even though they make a point to make Hugh make some offhanded comments about never wanting children like minutes before meeting Diana. If God of War's father-child story is Coke, then Pragmata is Diet Coke. It's still sweet, but there's something artificial about it. The two leads, although charmingly performed, basically have no depth from a writing perspective. However, what does have depth is the gameplay. The combat and boss fights in this game are incredible, some of the best I've seen this year. The gameplay in Pragmata is Capcom's pretty reliable third-person shooting, but there's a catch. Shooting the enemies in Pragmata alone pretty much does no damage. Diana, however, can hack the enemies and open them up to devastating attacks. When you aim down the sights of one of your weapons, a little grid will come up that prompts you to start a hacking minigame mid-combat. You can navigate this grid using the face buttons as directional buttons. It can be a little overwhelming to have to do both the hacking and the shooting during combat, but once you catch on, you get used to it pretty quickly. The game also develops mechanics out very well and finds new ways to engage you when you finally think you have it all down. I also got the platinum for Pragmata, taking 2 playthroughs at about 44 hours. At number 3, we have Saros, the newest release from Housemarque Studios and the spiritual successor to 2021's excellent Returnal. Saros kind of fits into a similar spot as Pragmata for me in that I really didn't care about the story of Saros that much, despite the phenomenal performances by Rahul Kohli and Jane Perry. However, the ending of Saros was so good that it made me actually give a shit in the 11th hour, and I mean really care. Once a certain cutscene hit, I was locked in. The storytelling is a little more direct than Returnal, but can still be pretty obtuse at times. Saros in general kind of feels like this in-between identity crisis at times, and it's not just the story. The gameplay loop, while not quite the same as Returnal's, still expects you to play through its areas many times and die on your runs more often than not. However, it just also feels way too easy to really make you do that. Most bosses took me around 3 tries or less, and a couple I beat the very first go without dying. Although the game doesn't quite commit to full storytelling or full roguelike status, what Saros does commit on is Returnal's excellent gameplay. The weapons are better, the bosses are more creative, the abilities are more useful, and Arjun feels way more spry than Celine ever did. Plus, there's just something about the presentation of a big-budget Sony first-party exclusive that always gives a sense of grandeur few others can. It took me around 37 hours to get the platinum for Saros. Next up, at number 2, we have 007 First Light.
That's the training facility. Scenic.
You're not here for sightseeing. In fact, shouldn't be here at all. The sooner you realize that, the better for both of us.
No sightseeing. Got it.
Same as Lego Batman, I've already done a video on 007, so I'll try to keep this brief, link in the description down below. 007 is the newest game from IO Interactive and features a completely original James Bond story. The gameplay is very similar to the Hitman World of Assassination collection, but smartly modified to fit the story and setting of James Bond. Like I said in my video, I wasn't really interested in James Bond prior to this game at all, but between the writing and the excellent performance by Patrick Gibson, I've been inspired to check the films out. If you want a good story, a great cast, clever gameplay, and fun set pieces, I don't know that I could recommend a better overall package than 007 First Light this year. Well, except maybe for this next one. Finally, at number 1, my game of the year so far is
Resident Evil.
I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming. Between the monster sales and crazy high review scores, Resident Evil has been a force to be reckoned with this year, and pretty much for the last decade at this point. Resident Evil Requiem is pretty special for a few reasons. Firstly, it was directed by Koshi Nakanishi, the same director of the game that revived the franchise, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Secondly, it's the first game since Resident Evil 6 in 2012 that we've seen Leon Kennedy, probably the most popular character in the franchise.
Talk to me. Is this one like the others?
Well, same black watches.
And it's not post-mortem lividity.
No. No, this is different. That's 6 now. 6 survivors of Raccoon City, all dead from the same thing.
You there, Leon?
Yeah. I'm here.
Lastly, it's the first game in the Resident Evil franchise to launch with 2 completely different styles of play. By default, the game has you playing in first person for Grace's terrifying survival horror sections, and third person for Leon's more action-focused levels. I am someone who personally loves Resident Evil for the survival horror. My first 2 games in the franchise were 2 Remake and 7, and both really made me fall in love with the franchise and made me a massive fan. So I was ecstatic when I found out Nakanishi was returning to direct, but once I saw the Leon gameplay, I got scared about what this experience was going to be.
Think I want a second opinion?
Thankfully, it's actually really good. Look, I like Resident Evil 4, but the type of action gameplay found in 4 and 5 are not why I'm a Resident Evil fan. Thankfully though, I think Leon's sections in Resident Evil 9 are better than 4 Remake in my opinion. Switching back and forth between whatever horrifying nightmare Grace is currently going through, to essentially being John Wick in Leon's parts was so refreshing and helped the pacing so much. I have my gripes and nitpicks with the game. I really didn't love the last level, and it kind of sucks that Grace basically only has one main weapon for the duration of the game. But those complaints aside, I think Resident Evil 9 is a phenomenal game that deserves its sales and pedigree. I platinumed Resident Evil in around 60 hours. That does include some post-game messing around in the Leon Must Die mode, which is also pretty fun if you haven't checked it out already. Honestly, Capcom better just let Nakanishi do literally whatever he wants from now on. But those are my top 10 games of 2026 so far. I'm sure those will shift and change, especially after the crazy busy month coming in September. Games are so scared of GTA right now that literally over 50 games are releasing in the month of September alone. Now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with my top 10? Is yours different? Did I miss any games you think should have been included? Please drop a comment with your personal list and let me know. Also, if you found this video informative or entertaining, maybe consider dropping a like and subscribing. I put out brand new videos with game reviews, news, and other topics every single week. I also stream on Twitch and YouTube Live, so come hang out sometime to catch a sneak peek of what I'm working on next. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.